Welcome to Just Pause. So I'm, so I'm recording this practice in the middle of the day on a Friday, and it's gorgeous outside. The weather is beautiful. And yet, the content that I want to invite into our pause space, our meditation space, is about peeling back the layers of protection, the layers of defensiveness, the layers of ego or abhina vesha, the desire to be unique and special and remember that divine spark, that Atman, or the Buddhi nature that lives within. And so much temptation is out there in the world to be big, to be bold, to be perfect. But none of that is necessary. None of that is true. So let's begin our just pause practice by finding a comfortable sit, a comfortable aligned spine. Even out the breath for the in and the out, the sama vriti. And I always like to begin with the breath, whether it's a just pause or just breathe or even an asana practice, because it is the life force. It is the energy that gives us access to the doings, and for that matter, the non-doings as well. So notice your breath. Can you befriend its texture, its pace, its volume, its shape, its purpose? The purpose of the breath is to give you the fuel to do your life's work. Maybe that first step of doing, of finding, of discovering, of remembering your life's work is in practicing compassion, creating that calm, abiding space, that safe haven for love. Self-love, self-care, expanding to love of others and all. And through the practice, we cultivate confidence and competence just by showing up, just by meeting ourselves here with whatever compassion we've cultivated, whatever compassion we've embraced, we've accepted. Some days that might be easier than other days. So just notice, how is your access to compassion for yourself, for others, for your own becoming? Bhante Sujata reminds us that fundamentally, foundationally, our life's work is to learn to love. Everything else is nuance of personalization and expression. And that's why we can often get stuck in this tug of war between the ego and the Atman, the abhina vesha, and the desire to be connected to prana. Abhina vesha being that individuality, that oneness, that specialness. It also connotes competition. I am better than you. It's not true. So, compassion, we practice to cultivate competence and confidence. And in doing so with consistency, with diligence, with support and encouragement, we can clearly see what is. We can peel back the layers to see ourselves more authentically, more truly, more honestly. And in doing so, we can let go of what is not our Atman truth and practice those things that are the expression of that spark, that divine. So our meditation practice is that place that we go for self-assessment rooted in compassion. We observe and we comment in our own headspace, in our own heart space. We observe, we invite, we inquire. And confidence and competence grows, and it might start to show as pride. Pride is not a problem. Pride is a healthy expression of our sense of confidence and competence. As Brene Brown defines, pride is a feeling of pleasure or celebration related to our accomplishments or our efforts. I think that's so important. So maybe give yourself a pat on the back. Why? Because you showed up, you put an effort in. It may not yet cultivate all of the benefits that Bhante Sujata promises in terms of our meditation practice. And yet we celebrate our efforts and our accomplishments. Maybe you have a tendency to celebrate one more than the other. We can learn to do both. So what will you celebrate today? What can you give yourself a sense of a pat on the back? Congratulations. Be proud of. Now, many of us, myself included, often suffer from a misinterpretation of pride as hubris, as ego, as I am better than. But hubris is the inflated sense of one's own innate abilities that is tied more to the need for dominance than connection, and more importantly for that dominance than to actually accomplish or grow or learn to become. So hubris is probably a better word for those that posture and perform without the foundation of compassion. They might be faking their sense of confidence and competence as a defense mechanism for their fear of being seen as imperfect. But when we know that we're in process, when we accept that we're here to learn to love, we can celebrate that we're no longer who we were, but we're also not yet who we will be, in which case we don't need to be perfect. We don't need to be expecting ourselves to have all the answers. We can free ourselves from the responsibilities of our future self, just as we can release ourselves from the burden, the guilt of what we didn't know before, when we were our previous selves. We can celebrate our baby steps. We can celebrate our achievements. We can even celebrate our failures if we pause for introspection, inquiry, to learn from those missed steps and those unsuccessful opportunities, well-intended or not yet even aware of the consequences of our decisions and choices. What are you proud of? And as those memories, those images, those stories arise, check in and consider how much ego, how much hubris, how much posturing find that is pure you in your becoming. That's what we want to celebrate. That's what we want to be proud of. That's what we want to repeat and grow in and through. So we show up, we breathe, and we pause to allow clearer seeing to find its way into our heart space. And we see clearly love is more accessible, more effortless, and more rewarding. Start with compassion, the practice of ahimsa. The first step to do no harm. The second step might be to just be neutral, no harm, no good. Eventually progressing, growing, choosing to contribute positively, to do good. The more time we spend doing good, the less time, the less energy, the less temptation there is to do harm. In which case we get good at doing good. We gain confidence and competence. And in gaining confidence and competence, we know healthy pride. We cultivate a healthy ego, a sense of who we be as enough, as worthy, as beautiful, as valuable, as talented, as loving. Where are you in that progression of this path, step by step by step? Come back to your breath, come back to compassion. If that safe, calm, abiding space is available and compassion is accessible, peel back the layers. See yourself clearly. We all have stories of us not being our best, loving, authentic selves. We can wallow in that. We can deny and pretend. Neither of those strategies will bring us closer to love. Will strengthen not a single skill in terms of loving kindness, of being our best selves. So we observe our story. We comment from compassion. We choose to do, to not do, to undo, to redo the things that are stepping one step at a time closer to the acts of loving. Sometimes the hurdle of being with ourselves just as we are is knowing perhaps what we've done and not yet knowing who we want to be, who we are innately. The remembering is not yet complete. And sometimes the remembering is as much an exercise of imagining as it is remembering. Remember, it's all one. There is really no distinction between remembering and imagining. It's just whether we're looking forward and out or we're looking within. Two sides of the same expression, two sides of the same coin. Who do you want to be? To your partner, to your children, to your friends, to your family. One of the three key pillars that Bhakti Sujata suggests in this spiritual path is our noble friendships. And as important as it is to have a circle with others, it is equally important to be that noble friend to ourselves, to coach ourselves into compassionate challenge and support. Therapists and psychologists refer to this perhaps as self-soothing when we're feeling wounded and motivation when we're feeling inspired. Meditation helps us cultivate that balance of compassion and tapas, discipline, effort. And the breath is the fuel to do the hard things, to do the easy things, to do more, to do less, to just breathe, to just be. Can you connect with the feeling of pride, the feeling of pleasure, of celebration for your accomplishments, for your efforts? And then can you take it the next step and celebrate your beingness? That's the loving kindness. That's the metta. Of the expressions of your face, the sound of your voice, especially of laughter and tears. Do you love the way your body moves, the way it touches, the way it receives, the way your mind thinks and solves problems, observes and comments? Knowing this too is an evolution, a learning in progress. Our yoga practice teaches that meditation is less about the doing and more about the allowing. And yet, so many of us are dependent on a task list, a to-do list, a measuring stick. I set my timer. I meditated for 5 minutes. We're at 35 minutes. For 5 hours. I'm a good meditator. That's bullshit, right? The time is irrelevant. The intention followed through with the energy available to you, reflective of your journey in action of doing the practice. That's what matters. You do that consistently enough, and you will reap the benefits of knowing love. of knowing joy, of living with greater and greater ease. Lisa Lowitz writes, what does it mean to be Zen? To do nothing? Think nothing? Be nothing? Impossible. To be Zen is just to be yourself. Not name, not job, not history, not likes nor dislikes, thought or no thought, desire or despair. But what is self? Where does self reside? Hint, in what we do for others. Most difficult of all is to meet yourself where you are and abide there completely, just as you are, accepting whatever arises from moment to moment. All else happens on its own accord. To celebrate our achievements, to be proud of who we be and who we're becoming, is never in competition with love. And may, in fact, be most palpable when we're proud of what we do that benefits and serves and supports others. Our self-care practice, which includes breathing, moving, resting, eating well, sleeping well, connecting with friends, finding time to play, exploring healthy touch and learning new things. Our self-care helps us love others better and enables us to become our best self with clear seeing and strong knowing, connecting with that Atman center. And maybe it's not today that we rest in that knowing. And so we practice again. But as we close this practice and begin again what our day asks, we take with us even the slightest inkling to trust in this process, to believe in this truth. That divine spark, the Atman center, the Buddhi nature, the love that is our birthright and our greatest gift to be shared by way of our attention, our energy. As your hands come together, we close this practice. The hands, the hasta mudra, makes a seal, a promise that we will return again. But first, we must go out and live. May you breathe deeply and move freely, labor lovingly, and live vibrantly. May you be well. Namaste. Thank you for being here.